Today we're going to learn how to divide decimals. The first problem, 79 2/10 divided by 24. The important thing to know when dividing decimals is that you cannot divide when there is a decimal point in the divisor. In this case, 24, our divisor, doesn't have a decimal. So I'm going to do this problem just like it's a regular division problem, and we're going to worry about our decimal point in the end. I know that I cannot get any groups of 24 out of 7, but I can get groups of 24 out of 79. And so I think to myself, I know 25 is close to 24, and I would be able to get 3 groups of 25 out of 79. So I'm going to start with 3. It's important that I put the 3 over the 9. I could not divide into the 7. I had to divide into the 79. And because I'm saying that I can get 3 groups of 24 out of 79, it's important that the 3 is above the 9 where it belongs. Over to the side, I'm going to multiply 24 times 3. I know that 4 times 3 is 12. I'm going to put my 2, carry my 1. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7. And 3 times 24 is 72. Now I can subtract. 9 minus 2 is 7. 7 minus 7, of course, is 0. 7's less than 24, my divisor, so I can bring my 2 down. Oh, that's nice. So I know that I can get 3 groups of 24 out of 72 because I just did the problem before. So I'm going to put another 3 up here. 3 groups of 24 multiplied together would be 72. 72 minus 72 is 0. Now, if I have placed my digits in the correct spots above their correct term where we were dividing, then all I need to do is bring my decimal point straight up and line it up at the top. And so the answer is 3 3/10. Let's look at another problem. Now, in the last problem, I just said you cannot divide with a decimal in the divisor, but here we have a decimal in the divisor. So it's important for us to get rid of that decimal. Now, it's important to remember that as long as you divide or multiply your divisor and your dividend by the same thing, you would be able to get the right answer. So what I'm actually thinking is if I multiplied 5 8/10 times 10, that would give me 58. And now if I multiply 9 28/100 times 10, that would give me 92 8/10. Now many times you'll hear people say, oh, you moved the decimal 1 to the right, and because you moved the decimal 1 to the right, you move this decimal 1 to the right. You are doing that. That is happening, but what you're actually doing is you're multiplying both your divisor and your dividend by 10, and that's going to move your decimal point 1 place to the right. Anyway, that's going to give us 92 8/10 divided by 58, which is wonderful because now we don't have a decimal in the divisor and we can divide. I know I can get 1 group of 58 out of 92, and 1 times 58 is 58. Now, 92 minus 58 is 34. 34 is less than 58, so far so good. Bring the 8 down. And now I've got to guesstimate 50. I could get 6 groups of 50 out of 300. I wouldn't be able to get a group of 50 out of 48 And this isn't actually 50, it's 58. So I think 6 is a safer bet here. Let me come over here and work out what 58 times 6 is. Well, 6 times 8 is 48. Carry my 4. 6 times 5 is 30, plus 4 is 34. And that's 348. 6 times 58 is 348. And we end up with nothing left. Now again, as long as you put your answers over the correct numbers in the dividend, all we have to do is bring the decimal point right up to where it was at. So my answer here is 1 6/10. And no, it does not matter that we moved the decimal point, that we multiplied our divisor and our dividend by 10. It is also 1 6/10 for this answer. Let's take a look at our next problem. Here we have 252 divided by 4 5/10. Again, we have a decimal in the divisor, and we have to get rid of it. Now, the problem is I'm going to multiply 4 5/10 by 10, and that's going to give me 45. But my whole number here doesn't have a decimal. So if you're just thinking, oh, move the decimal one place to the right, that doesn't work. But if you're thinking, multiply my dividend by 10, it makes more sense. Because when I multiply 252 times 10, you get 252 with a 0 on the end, which is 2,520. Now this turns out that this problem now has no decimals in it, which is easier. We're used to doing those kind of problems all the time. I know that I can't get a group of 45 out of 2. I know that I can't get a group of 45 out of 25, but I can get groups of 45 out of 252. 45 is close to 50, and I could get 5 groups of 50 out of 252. I'm going to multiply 45 times 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 2 is 22. So 5 times 45 is 225. Now I'm going to subtract 25, 26, 27. I know that's 27. 27 is less than 45, so I'm good so far. Bring my 0 down. Well, I know 45 times 5 was 225, so it's probably going to be 45 times 6. 5 times 6 is 30. 6 times 4 is 24, plus 3 is 27. So I know that I'm going to get 6 groups of 45 out of 270, because 6 times 45 is 270. And I'm going to subtract. I ended up with no decimals in this problem, so there are no decimals in my answer. And even though I multiplied these by 10, my answer is still 56. Let's look at our last problem. Here I have 1 70 hundredths divided by 2 5/10. This one's kind of easy. I know we're multiplying our divisor and dividend by 10, but that's going to just cause the decimal point to move each one place to the right. And I'm going to rewrite my problem with 25 as my divisor and 17 0/10 as my dividend. I know I cannot get a group of 25 out of 1. I cannot get a group of 25 out of 17. But I can get some out of 170 if I think about it that way. thinking about money, there would be 4 quarters in a dollar. If this were 175, that would be 7, but it's not. So it's going to be 6 times 25. I know when I have 6 quarters, I have $1.50, so that's 150. 6 times 25 is 150. I'm going to subtract, and I have 20 left. 20 is less than 25, so we're good. Now I have a decimal here, so that means the decimal's going to move up. And I always tell my students, whenever the first thing in your number is a decimal, that you want to put a 0 out in front. So, but I have another problem. You are not able to have remainders when you have decimal division. So I can't get another group of 25 out of 20. I can't have a remainder, which is what 20 would be. And so I don't know what to do. In this case, on the 17, I can put another 0 because there's a decimal here. It doesn't matter that I've added an extra 0 that was never there to begin with, because there was nothing there, and I'm still putting nothing there. It's still a 0. But now I can bring this 0 down, and when I think, how many groups of 25 can you get out of 200? I know it's 8, and 8 times 25 is 200, and 200 minus 200 is 0. So the answer to this problem is actually 68 hundredths. Now this one worked out exactly, but sometimes you have to continue putting more zeros on after the decimal until it works out that you don't have a remainder, or many times the teacher may tell you to round to the nearest hundredths or thousandths, whatever your teacher tells you to do. But in this case, it worked out exactly. I hope this was helpful in learning to divide with decimals.